Hello, this is Monica Sawyer. Welcome to Real Estate Investing for Women, where we focus on all aspects of real estate investing, including strategies, mindset, emotional mastery, money smarts, and so much more to ensure your success. If you'd like to learn my personal favorite investing strategy, just go to blissfulinvestor.com. You can also listen to this episode on the Real Estate Investing for Women podcast on iTunes. Now, let's welcome our guest. I am so excited to welcome to the show today Ian Lobas, successful entrepreneur, real estate investor, podcast host, speaker, and full-time high-performance coach. Ian Lobas absolutely loves life. After years of grinding it out in the shipping and real estate sales businesses and making sacrifices in every other area of his life, he was burnt out. The money, the power, the success, none of it mattered anymore. He was in a failing marriage and barely knew his kids. Every day he would ask himself, is this really it? Is this all there is to life? Am I meant to do this forever? How can I have the life I want in every area? That's when Ian set out on a mission of intense personal development to figure out why he was avoiding fear, what was causing the pain, how to clear and remove it from his life, and how to make sure it didn't get between life and what really mattered to him most, his family and living life fully with no regrets. I'm so excited to share him and his wisdom with you today on our show. And afterwards, if you would like to connect with Ian, you can reach him at ian@thelobasgroup.com. And that will be in the show notes. But for now, hey, Ian, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, Monica, I am fantastic. You know, when you read that bio, it still gets me because it was almost like you were describing some other guy. And that's really what you were describing, is a different guy than I am today.
Yeah, we all
Yeah.
have a journey, right? We all
Yep.
have a journey to bliss. And that's why I really wanted to chat with you, because in that bio, I could see myself. You know,
Yeah.
I went through very, very similar things. And a lot of the ladies on the show have gone through a lot of different things. And what's so amazing about this crazy time in our lives, right, with everything that's been going on with the coronavirus and everything, um, we're all getting a chance to really look at it, right? We're
Yeah.
getting maybe some more downtime. We're living our lives differently because we have to. And it's allowing us to do a reset. And so many people are in that place. I know I was, I know you were. So now, as we're reevaluating, what are we going to do going forward? Here's an opportunity for a conversation that could change everything, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I'm just really excited for you to share with us a little bit more about that journey and how did you pull yourself out?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you having me on. And I love meeting you at the Media Summit and being a part of this journey with you now.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
so I think men or women, it really doesn't matter. It's the obsessive, identity rich journey of power and what money and what success can give you to mask what you're hiding from, what you're running from, what your fear points are, and what you're just generally avoiding in your life. And it's really that stuff that's deep down that really scares you. And people use success and money and power and drugs and alcohol and sex and gambling and whatever else you want as an avoidance technique. They use that. And like I said in my bio, I got to the point where at the end of 2016, I had done hundreds and hundreds of hours of maybe even thousands of personal development, reading 65 books and going to like 15 seminars and spending probably $50,000+ on personal development. And at the end of the year, I'm thinking, wow, I really did so much. I'm changing. And my wife says, I'm out. And I was like, whoa, but I thought I was doing so much work, and look at all the stuff I'm doing, and look at all the work I'm doing. And my wife's like, yeah, but I don't like who you are still.
Mhm.
And I said, at that moment, I realized, actually what my wife said to me was, are you really the model of a man that you want your daughter to attract into her life? And
Wow.
it still like brings up emotion in me, because it was like a 18-wheeler running into me. And at that moment, I just kind of stopped and just really thought, no, I'm not. And that's when my wife said, you're doing all this stuff, but it hasn't changed anything about you. It just added to all the things you now know. And you're already self-righteous enough. And you already are trying to look smart and look good all the time anyway. So now it just gave you more ammo. And so that is when I really learned the difference between being and doing. And that's that real big quest of like, wow, how do I change my being? Because I don't like myself. I don't want to get divorced. And truthfully, it was a divorce attorney who said to me, look, I'm not going to take this case. Like, this isn't what you want. You're selfish. You're just an a-hole. And if you can really figure out the guy deep down inside that you're hiding behind all this stuff, you know, when you figure that guy out, you're going to live a really great life, because it's in there. I hear you. I see you. Like, you're not the guy that's super masculine, tough guy. Like, you got this side to you that people really enjoy. And if you can have him come out all the time, you'll have a great relationship in life. And so that's it. That's what I did.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There's something that I say to my listeners all the time, is that we can't control what's going out outside of us, in the
Right.
world,
Right.
right? But we
Yep.
can always control how we choose to respond. And really what
Yep.
that has to do with is, who are we being in the world? Who
Right.
are we truly inside, that is showing up in the world? And many of us may not like that person. And part of that just has to do with, we don't even know how to keep ourselves happy, right?
Right.
We don't even know how to create that inside job that everybody is talking
Yeah.
about, that
Yeah.
most of us are giving lip service to, right? And
Yep.
so my journey with bliss has really been about creating that bliss equilibrium within myself, so that no matter what is going on outside, whether it's the economy, whether it's a recent election, whether it's the coronavirus, whether my husband is having problems, whatever, work or whatever, no matter what
Yeah.
is going on out there, Monica is the same person. I show up exactly the same way everywhere. It doesn't mean that I don't have challenges. It doesn't mean that I don't fall off the horse, right? It doesn't
Sure.
mean that I don't have my own issues, but it means that I am in the habit of coming back to this place of bliss and joy, and being
Yeah.
the kind of person I want to be in the world, right? So
Yep.
I may fall off the horse, but I don't stay off for very long. And that's the key, right?
Yeah. We're all
And
human.
so, what the conversation today is really about, there's a lot going on out there that we can't control, right? There are cycles in what's been happening. There's a lot of us are experiencing a lot of emotion, up, down, sideways. Oh my gosh, what the heck is going on, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so, how do we become blissful in those circumstances? So, I just love your input on sort of what you think would really help people.
Sure. So it's one of my areas of specialty in my coaching consulting business, is helping people to separate from the identity that they created around that avoidance or around that pain, trauma from the past, whatever it might be, to separate from that, really realize who they are inside, or who they choose to be, and then the choices that they can make at every moment going forward, because that, like you said, is your responsibility. At every moment you have a choice, and it's not 50 million variables. It's two: toward the goal or away from the goal, very easily.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take rocket science to figure out how to do that. It takes a very clear mind to set a very clear goal and to understand the path to get there. And when you face an obstacle that you can go left, when you know the goal is right, you have a choice to go left. Go left. And just understand that when you kick a ball downhill, it will not stop. So whatever happens on the other side of that choice, that's your responsibility. It's not the other guy who cut you off, or the other guy who made you late, or the other, like, it's none of that stuff. And you have to start owning that responsibility of those choices that you make.
So
And
we do
so, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I talk about this a lot, right? Take 100% responsibility. And it can be scary, right?
Yeah.
Like, because it's like, oh my God, I'm responsible for all of those bad things that are happening to me. Not really. What taking 100% responsibility gives you is the opportunity to create change.
Right.
So those bad things are happening to me. And if I take responsibility, then I have the power to create change,
Yeah.
right? So it's really about empowering yourself to run your own life, right?
Yeah.
So, and one of the things that you talked about that I love and has not been on this show before, but I'm very aware of, and I teach in my coursework, is towards goals and away goals.
Mm-hmm.
So, right now, there's a lot of people running away from the fear of the coronavirus or
Right.
its fallout, or you know what I mean? Like, oh my gosh,
The
what's going
what
to happen?
ifs.
Right. There's a lot of ifs and there's a lot
Yeah.
of fear. People don't know what's happening and they're running away from that fear. So let's get into the mode of the toward. So, first, why don't you define away and toward goals? Because we think it's intuitive, but there might be some people going, well, that's an interesting concept. How does that work in my life? Right. And then
Sure.
let's talk about how we can utilize that concept now.
So the first thing I always want to foundationalize with something that a lot of people know, maybe not everybody, but if you're familiar with Michelangelo's David,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this story is true, but what I've read and why I've always been fascinated with the David, especially in personal development and myself as a coach and a leader and somebody who helps people shift and change their lives, is Michelangelo was quoted, somebody asked him, how did you create the David? And he said, I didn't. I just knew what pieces of marble to remove, and David was already there. And I equate the same thing to who we are. What we put on in terms of the pieces of marble that we don't need on ourselves, our spirits, our souls, whatever, is from all that stuff that happened to us in the past. Whatever happened in high school and childhood, when your first breakup, all that pain, it started to build the armor. And so all we're asking, or all we're talking about here, is identifying the pieces of that armor that no longer serve you and just removing them. And not in next time someone cuts you off in traffic, the choice you make is not toward anger and toward, I'm going to chase this guy down and flip him off. You understand and have identified, all right, I know why I get angry at this. I can take that off and no longer serves me. So next time someone cuts you off, you don't make meaning of it and you just move on. And yes, it's easier said than done. And it all comes with practice and building a habit. There's still stuff that pisses me off. There's still stuff that makes me upset and angry. It's just in that moment, I choose to be responsible with my choice. Does this either go toward the goal of, building this business or getting home on time or spending time with my kids or going out to dinner with my wife? Or does me chasing this guy down and flipping him off just to prove some point that doesn't even matter? Like, does that go toward my goal or not? And so the biggest thing that people can do is just really clearly identify goals that are not based on who they've become in their job or in their social circle, but it's just a pure, I want to spend more time at home with my kids, or I want to take my wife out on a date every, twice a week, or like pure things. If you're single, it could be something that a hobby, or it's pure. It doesn't take identity. It doesn't take, some of this stuff takes money, but it doesn't take your identity around those things to actually get this goal accomplished. It's you who can do it. So I always tell people, if you get fired from your job and your bank account is empty, will you still have any goals? And most people say no. But the fact is, you're still going to have a goal or you're going to die that day, that moment. So the exercise is, you got fired from your job or your business failed, you have no money, but the people around you who you love, whether it's your family or your friends or extended family, they're still there. What's the foundational piece? And then once you have the foundational piece, you can start building from there. And I guarantee you that goal sheet looks much different than most people's, dream boards or vision boards that have fancy cars and big vacations and stuff like that. Now that's all important, but foundationalizing it that's how you get that build.
Mm. What do you mean by foundationalizing it? Let's go deeper there.
Sure. So I work with a lot of people that I'll ask them, build me a vision board. Let me see your vision board. And they'll show me pictures of yachts and jets and 10 karat diamond rings and vacations for $50,000 to Tahiti. and they've got $500 in a bank account. And they have this dream of one day being able to achieve that stuff. The challenge is that who they are within that, they have no idea how to attain that, because the person that they are can't attain that. Do they have the skills? Sure, they can acquire those. Could they find the money? I'm sure they can. But the person that they are is never going to put all that stuff together. And that was the problem with me, is I could do all this work on myself, but until it actually soaked into the bone, that's the only time that's actually going to change things radiating outward, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So for everybody listening, like, it's not about more stuff you can add to your plate. It's not about the next book or podcast or seminar or big things that make these big impacts. It's about these little tiny choices, not yelling at your 2-year-old kid because they spilled something. Not, that was me, by the way, not, saying like, this is a 2-year-old. What am I doing? Like, make a choice in that moment to say, I want my kid to spend more time with me. I want to be a better example. So be a better example in that moment. And as you start to do those things where it's like, I could stay at the office another hour to get this work done, or I could fulfill on the promise to my kid or my girlfriend to go out to dinner, or, I could go see my grandmother in the hospital, whatever it might be. Like, those little things that don't register as giant on your radar because we're high consumers and our minds are moving so fast and we want big dopamine hits. Those are the things that like, when you start to think about the little tiny pieces that make, widespread effect, those are how you build the foundation. So instead of saying like, couldn't see my grandmother for the last 6 months, she's been in the hospital because I'm going out to dinner with clients, or I've got this, or I've got a deadline at work, like, compartmentalizing that stuff and saying, cool, well, if all that work stuff goes away, like, am I still going to make up reasons why I can't go see my grandmother in the hospital, or why I can't take my girlfriend out on a date? You're not. It's not true, because you're probably going to be depressed because your identity's gone. And so you have to create an identity around what would be there without any of the other stuff that runs your life. And that's what I became an expert on, is how to remove all the other barriers, all the blind spots, and really see what matters most and build from there.
So that's a lot of what people are going through right now, right?
Totally.
I mean, we're spending an awful lot of time with ourselves. And for some people, it's really uncomfortable, right? Because all the outside external stuff is not really available for us, right? Or it's showing up differently, let's say. So do you have any specific tip on how to get to that person? How to, what can we do? I know that you're going to give some really, really good, juicy stuff with extra. But what could we do to get that started?
Sure. I mean, I agree with you. I've been talking to my neighbors from a distance. And I was the guy that I could never work from home. Like, I had to get out of here on a routine and a structure and a schedule. But I also realized through the work with that was an identity, was to go to Starbucks and be that guy, and get this parking spot, I'm that guy, and show my car off, I'm that guy, and have this office, I'm that guy. Like, all that stuff was wrapped up in this fake facade and this balloon that can be popped at any time. And so what I tell people now, because I've had a lot of calls with people literally going crazy because they can't be that person. They can't get up on Monday morning and go to the office and escape the things at home or the problems that they had. So the tiny things you can do are, you can start to fill in with what you've always wanted to do or dreamed about doing. You have the time. Don't sit around and complain about it or be depressed over it. If you're at home with your kids, that's freaking amazing. That's a godsend. That's a blessing and a half. Unless you hate your kids, you probably shouldn't have had them in the first place. I know that's harsh, but like, if you hate your kids,
but you got them, right? So
it's your fault. It's your fault. Your kids are a product of you. And so what people are seeing now is a spotlight shine on what they've created around them. So I have some friends who are like, oh my God, I can't stand my kid for more than an hour a day. This kid's driving me crazy. He's jumping all around, his language. Oh my gosh, I never realized this. I'm like, yeah, well, you created that. So why don't you sit down and just be present with your kid? Like I posted a video the other day on my Facebook page of my daughter doing her affirmations in the mirror. I
Oh.
never would have done something like that. But 2 years ago when she, was really like having conversations, she started getting up with me at like 5 a.m. She was already up. And so I said, all right, so instead of me, again, in the moment making that decision, instead of me being pissed off right now because she's affecting my morning routine, why don't I be a nice parent and a nice dad and include her? And she's only like 2. So I said, you know what? Why don't you follow daddy and we'll go in and you can see what I do in the morning. And so I would brush my teeth and I would do my affirmations in the mirror. Then I'd come and do a little meditation. Then I'll do my journaling. Then I do some push-ups and sit-ups. Well, as she kind of went on throughout the weeks, she started doing it with me. And she's been saying affirmations for, since she was like, I probably like a year old. And now we write them on her bathroom mirror and she does them. And I can tell you right now that this kid is so happy in the morning to get up with me and to do the things that I like to do. And it also has a bonus of she's building confidence in herself as a woman who's 4 years old, that when she faces something scary, and it like melts my heart as a dad to watch her, like when I taught her how to snorkel in the bathtub, which sounds weird, but I want her to scuba dive with me one day. So I was watching YouTube videos and it says, teach them how to snorkel in the bathtub. So I watched her and she's like, I can't go under. And I'm like, well, if you say you can't, then you can't. So take the snorkel off. And then she said, well, I really want to. And I said, cool. Then just tell yourself that you are afraid and it's okay. You can get yourself through it. So sharing those moments with her are teaching her life's lessons. And that's the stuff that I'm talking about, which isn't like these monumental moves. It's not a big fat paycheck. It's not your promotion or your brand new car. It's not that dopamine hit. It's a long, slow burn, but you're creating something in somebody else that has major lasting effects. That if everything else went away, my daughter still has a confidence in herself and a belief in herself that most kids her age would never even know until they're probably teenagers, when it gets shattered anyway. So when I watch her face something,
have tools that a
she's
lot of
going to have the
teenagers
tools.
don't have, right?
That's what I mean.
That's amazing.
Right. So that's really like, those are little tiny things. So it could be the morning routine that you've always wanted to do, but you've never really made time. It can be the time with the children or your spouse or your boyfriend or girlfriend or whoever that it's always been work. It's always been this. It's always been my hobby comes before. You don't have any of those options right now. And as far as we know, because the world could end tomorrow, you'll never have those options again. And if the world delivers it tomorrow, great. And if it delivers it the next day, great. But for right now, in the present moment, this is your life. Make the absolute best of it. And so read that book or watch that show or spend time with your kids or take them outside and play with them or build that. Like I built this thing swing set and that I've had in my shed for a year because I didn't make time. So it's just the little tiny things, and start with the morning routine. And so I always tell people, like, focus on children and spouse and yourself if you have a family. And if you don't, it's all about self-love and self-care. And so if you want an easy way to do self-love and self-care, boil a pot of water and make yourself loose tea. Have to strain it, have to steep it for 15 minutes. You'll be with yourself doing something for yourself for 25 minutes for a cup of tea. And if that's not self-love, I don't know what is, because you're actually saying to yourself, like, I care enough to spend this time just making myself a little cup of tea and not rush the microwave and not run around with 50 million things, but I'm going to spend this time on me right now.
I love that. And the things that I love about it are, first of all, it's such an easy thing that all of us can do, right? It's something none of us would ever think about.
Nope.
And it can be such a meditative, beautiful experience. Like just because normally what do we do in the morning? We're like, I got to get my cup of coffee or my cup of tea or whatever. Yeah. And we're like running around and we're, while it's steeping, we're running and doing 10 things, right? But what if we just slowed down? What if we just took that moment instead of I mean, we don't have to rush around in many cases, right? And even if
Yeah.
we did, it's okay to give ourselves 15 minutes just for us, and we don't have to
Right.
do a bubble bath and wait for a half hour for the water to heat up and fill up and blah 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 blah, all
Right.
of that stuff. It's something that can happen any moment, in the
Right.
moment, that will slow us down. And it's something to do. I know so many people, when we talk about slowing down, they're like, I got to be doing something. Well, this is
Yeah.
something
And
they
that's,
can do that also slows them down, right?
yep. Doing
So
something is an avoidance tactic to facing who you really are. When people have to sit by themselves and really be with themselves, scary. So
it
not being able
is.
to get up on Monday morning, like Friday evening, you can go, all right, cool, 2 days. And I'm only speaking to those people. There's probably people that are listening that are like, wow, I'm really content with my life. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take some of these tips and add them.
Right.
But for those people that hit Friday night and they're like, great, 2 days, I got to make it through, get home, make it through 2 days, I get back to the office.
Mm-hmm.
What I found in my businesses is a lot of those people that hate, not hate, but like dislike the weekend because they don't have something to keep them busy and their mind off of work that they need to do on themselves. They also hate their job. So when
Mm-hmm.
they're in this vicious cycle of just a monotonous, negativity filled lifestyle that affects their health and their relationships, and then at the end you don't have anything, and it's just not a way to live.
Yeah.
So the tea thing is just a small example of how someone can take care of themselves. And I know the naysayers right now are, and it's not going to be your audience, it's going to be whoever hears it out of this. I was kidding. Somebody's saying, well, he doesn't have 4 kids, he doesn't know. I have 2 kids, and I take care of my daughter in the morning, and my wife takes care of our son, who's like 7 weeks old. And that's our commitment. And I'm sure my wife would want me to step in a little bit more with the baby, but he's so small, like he needs her all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I take care of my daughter, who's 4, a little over 4. And I understand if you have a little bit too much to do. And that's no excuse to not take time for yourself and make yourself a cup of tea. Because what you're saying to yourself is, damn it, with all the stuff going on in this world, I care about me. I care about taking just a couple minutes for myself to do something for me that doesn't mean anything but what I make it mean to myself. And I'm just making myself a cup of tea. That's it. And I've found that to be so symbolic of the love I'm feeling for myself in the moment, that on those days when I'm like, F the world, I don't know what I'm going to do today. It's a Japanese tea ceremony. I mean, I don't go the full gamut, but it's about meditation and the steeping of the tea and the releasing of the important medicinal pieces of that tea leaf. And there's a
Well,
lot of
it's a
stuff going on in
ritual.
there.
It's a
It's a ritual.
ritual. It's a
Yeah.
ritual that serves us. There's a reason that many spiritual practices, many religious practices, business practices, family practices, right? All of these things, we have rituals
Right.
that help to enhance or amplify the experience.
Yeah.
And when you have a ritual that you can do that represents self love, you have access to that ritual at any moment,
Right.
right? And it's something, we started talking about the things, something to do. Yes, to do is often an escape tactic. It also can be a ritual. It
Mm-hmm.
depends on how we use it. And this is all in our mind and the experience that we make it, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So, and I know that we're going to talk a little bit more about sort of what we make of things, like the
Sure.
meaning that we give things. But this is really something that we have control of in our mind, is
Yeah.
what are we turning this experience into for ourselves and for the people around us even, right?
Yep.
Because here's the thing, you as a dad, me as a wife, daughter, those sorts of things. If I'm taking care of myself, I'm just a nicer person to be around,
Yeah. Most of the time. Yeah.
you
I mean,
know?
there's always stuff that's going to come in and do its best to affect how we're being on a minute to minute basis. And that's our choice.
Right. That's right. But because you're doing those things to take care of yourself, you're not as vulnerable too.
Well, that's the biggest point right there, is as you remove that armor that we talked about earlier from that identity that's really kind of created on a foundation of sand, you start to open up possibility for yourself, and like what could be. And it's a habit that you have to build. So just try something little. And the tea thing might not work for you, might not like tea, but it could be with your coffee. So for those people that are just coffee crazy and they got to have it first thing in the morning, just wake up 30 minutes early, just 20 minutes early, and just have a ritual of, I brush my teeth and then I go and I use, like it's not about boiling water or this or this. It's about the separate ingredients going all together and not it being an instant world, because the instant gratification is what pulls us so quickly off of our mark, that when we slow down and we have to put something together, this could be with a puzzle too, by the way, or things like that. By what you could do with your kids. And I say that just as a dad and an entrepreneur, from a dad who could care less about the family. Like if I had time for them, I might make it if something else didn't come up. Like that's where I'm coming from. And it could be literally anything. Just wake up a little bit earlier. If you've got a bunch of kids at home, or if you've got a job you still have to go to, maybe telecommute, just give yourself that and own that. And then if you can take the next step and write in a journal, I loved myself today. I guarantee you 95% of this audience has never said in words in a mirror or in a journal, I loved myself today. I cared for myself today. Like I love myself. And, those are more, I have 50 million exercises and different things that people can do, but that's just something simple. Make yourself a cup of tea and write in a journal that I loved myself today. I took time for myself today. And I'm telling you, the foundation that can build, although it sounds very simple, is monumental.
It's so delightful to hear that somebody else is doing that stuff. I actually have never admitted this on the air because I feel like it sounds a little bit narcissistic, but, and it's not, it's exactly what you expressed. But every day I do a lot of physical therapy right now because my shoulder is bad. So after the physical therapy, the reward is I stand right in front of my full length mirror because I have to do the physical therapy and be able to watch myself. I
Right.
stand, kind of standing there sweating and hurting and feeling bad because it hurts to do this. Yeah. It's called pain therapy, not physical therapy. But as I stand in front of the mirror after all of that, look directly in my own eyes and say, Monica, I love you.
Yeah.
Powerful woman. And still, like saying it now without looking in my eyes tears me up, but when I'm looking in my own eyes, it is so powerful. And
for someone that tries that and it doesn't register right away because you've done that to yourself. And I'm saying that from someone that took almost 6 months for it to actually register. When I look in the mirror and say, I love you, it was like nothing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden one day I teared up and I'm like, I think I got it. I think I actually got it.
I heard it from myself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like, or I actually allowed it in.
That's right.
And so I think the symbolism or like the reflection of you being able to say that to yourself is the amount of armor that you have up. And the moment that when you're doing this work to remove that armor, to reveal the true you, that makes it easier on people. They don't have to build a whole new them. They just have to remove the stuff that doesn't work anymore for them. When your marriage and your job and your relationships with your kids. And then when you finally say, I love you that day, whether it's 6 months or a year or 2 weeks later, and it registers, that you've got stuff cleared that you were intending to clear. And you're like free, you're like revitalized, and you have a new life at that moment. It's so cool. It's really cool.
Really cool. I love that.
Yeah.
So we need to wrap up this part of the show, and I'm really excited to go into extra. So there's a couple of things I want to ask you. First of all, what are you going to be talking about in extra? You say it so much better than I do.
Oh, geez. We're going to go deeper into the stuff that I talked about today. For people that are really curious, we're going to be going deeper into the meaning and the outcome that we tie to things that affect us from the outside in and then from the inside out. And it's just this vicious cycle. So we're going to go a little deeper into that. Well, we'll go a lot deeper into that. If people are
So
People
we're
are
going to turn it from a vicious cycle into a magical cycle. Let's just say
right.
it that way, right? So we're
There you
going
go.
to, yeah,
There you go.
exactly.
Way
We're going to
better.
turn it into a blissful cycle,
That's right.
right? So that sounds amazing. I'm really excited about that. So ladies, definitely stay tuned for that, right? But before we sign off, could you tell us again how people can get back in touch with you, Ian?
Sure. Yeah. Right now I'm in a transition period. I'm purchasing a new business and a new podcast. So you'll be able to catch me on that very soon. Just Ian Lobas, L-O-B as in boy, A-S as in Sam on Facebook. You'll see it because there's a little picture of my daughter as my little whatever. On Instagram, I'm at Your Defining Moments on Instagram, which will be changed soon. You can just type in my name. And then my email is Ian, I-A-N, at thelobasgroup.com. Ian at thelobasgroup.com.
Nice. Thank you so much. This was
My pleasure.
amazing. Yeah, thank
Thanks for
you.
having me.
Yay. So ladies, we are going to move into Extra. So if you are subscribed to Extra, please stay tuned. If you're not, but would like to be, go to Real Estate Investing for Women extra.com. That's real estate investing for women extra.com, and you can subscribe there and get all this extra content. You know, I was telling one of my guests earlier today that extra is my true heart work. This is the gift that I really want to give all of you, because this is the place where my guests, who are so amazing on this normal show, they get to really shine and go deep and give you those special things that are going to just change your life. So it's my true gift to you. So if you haven't checked it out, go check it out. It really is worth it. I learn so much from my guests in every single show, and I am completely blown away by what I personally take away in every single extra episode. So go check it out. It's Real Estate Investing for Women extra.com. Those of you that are leaving us right now, thank you so much for joining us for this portion of the show. And always remember, bliss is your birthright. Choose to live your bliss every single day. I'll see you next time. Bye. I hope you enjoyed today's show. If you'd like to download my favorite investing strategy, just go to blissfulinvestor.com. See you next time.